For many years, Irene has been fundraising for the Cancer Support Team of Westchester County and for the Alzheimer's Association. For nearly 30 years, Irene has been a catechist, teaching religious education to children at Holy Innocents Parish in Pleasantville. Paul is a proud son of Fordham University and Fordham Law School. He is senior counsel at Thompson Hine in New York. Paul is also an adjunct professor at Fordham. He has also lectured extensively at law school and at bar meetings, including USTA, Defense Research Institute, and Belfast Law Society. Paul was awarded the Fordham Corporate Counsel Bennett Award for achieving the highest standards of ethical conduct, moral purpose, and selfless commitment for a corporate leader. He received the Good Counsel Veronica Star Award for outstanding achievement and service to the community. Paul also served on the Board of Trustees of Fordham University, including on its executive committee. Paul also volunteers in the Westchester County Public Safety Emergency Force, a reserve unit of the Department of Public Safety. Paul was elected to the Board of Trustees of the Gregorian University Foundation in 1996, and Irene joined him on the board in 2010. In their combined 42 years of board service, combined, they generously have donated their time and generous perspectives to support Father Gene O'Brien, Father George Sullivan, Father Bob O'Toole, Father Alan Fogarty, Father Michael McFarland, and most recently Father Tom Merkel as presidents of the foundation. Irene has made valuable contributions in her service on the Advancement Committee, and Paul has shared his sound judgment and many hours of his time as a member or chair of the Investment, Audit, and Nominating Committees, as well as serving as a valued member of the Executive Committee and most recently Vice Chair of the Board. Sharing their time and wisdom, Irene and Paul have generously given of their treasure, having devoted gifts to the foundation itself and to support the students through the Pope Francis Adopt a Scholar Endowment Fund in their name, as well as toward the support of various special projects at the Jesuit schools in Rome, including the Cardinal Martini Chair for New Testament Studies at the Bellicum, and the fund to make major repairs of the roof of the Bellicum. Irene and Paul are included as members of the St. Robert Bellarmine Leadership Circle in our donor honor roll for lifetime giving. They have also attended many colloquium trips to Rome, during which, many of which anyway, Irene was our unofficial photographer for the group, and supported many events here in the United States, such as the University for a Day, and many receptions for benefactors. They have also introduced numerous friends and donors to the foundation. Irene and Paul are blessed with 2 children, Christine and Paul Jr., both of whom are with us this evening, as well as 3 grandchildren, one of which is with us tonight. Irene and Paul Soden have been invaluable advisors to the Board of Trustees and to the staff of the foundation. And I personally will miss their wit, their wisdom, and above all, their common sense. Irene and Paul stepped down this afternoon at our board meeting from their positions as trustees. The members of the Board of Trustees wish to thank Irene and Paul for their many contributions to the board, to the foundation, and to the Education Consortium in Rome over these many years. And so, the Board of Trustees hereby expresses its gratitude to Irene Soden and Paul Soden for their service on the board and to the foundation, and as a sign of its respect and affection, the board awards the 2024 William R. Grant Award for Exceptionally Generous Leadership to Irene Soden and Paul Soden, a woman and man for others. Please come on.
Bill. That was very, very kind of you. Most of that was embedded. By the way, my job now is to do the rebuttal. And I want to thank Father Bill, Father Tom, and of course Colleen and Trish for everything they've done for us over the years. It has been a wonderful, wonderful thing to work with them, and they've been terrific. I did ask Colleen how long we had to speak, right? And Colleen said, oh, don't worry, it'll be just fine. I said, oh, give me a number. She said, okay, 30 minutes. Each. Irene is going to speak on behalf of both of us. But by the way, don't get nervous. I know I'm standing between you and the train. So it'll be only 20 minutes each. First of all, it's a great privilege and pleasure to be with all of you this evening and to be the recipient of the Grant Award. It's a very prestigious award. It has been given to some wonderful people over the years, and we are just thrilled to be considered in that same company. We have been involved with the Gregorian University Foundation for many, many years, a generation at least, almost a lifetime. And in that time, we've seen a lot of change. Several popes, different locations for the GUF, a lot of different people on the board. And we've made friends with the people on the board over the years, and it has been truly rewarding. Our experience with the Greg started with meeting Father Joseph Pitow. Father Pitow was the rector of the Gregorian at that time, and came to New York and spoke about the Gregorian's goals, purpose, and needs. And he talked about the fact that the Gregorian was the future of the church. And he asked for our assistance. He was a man who made an extraordinary impression. He spoke from the heart, he was genuine, he was very persuasive. And so we joined what was essentially, although we didn't realize it at the time, a pilgrimage. A pilgrimage and a journey of discovery from where we were in our life to growth in our faith, growth in our understanding and knowledge of the church, and we also got to visit some wonderful places in Rome and Israel. And we have met some remarkable people, some of them in this room and many, many others. And we had the opportunity to meet 3 popes. Now, the first pope we met was John Paul II. We were supposed to meet him a couple of different times and it somehow didn't work out. This is a true story, by the way. So finally, we were going to meet him. Father O'Brien was the president of the GUF at the time. And he said, tomorrow we're going to meet John Paul. I said, this is terrific. We're going to meet them in person? Yes, in person. I said, well, what do you say to the Pope? And he said, well, you know, whatever you want to talk about. Whatever I want to talk about. So, of course, those of you who know me well, the next words out of my mouth were, okay, what if I say, what do you think the Yankees will do this year? O'Brien said, no, not that. So I said, are we going to go up one at a time or as a couple? And he said, as a couple. So Irene says to me, what are we going to say? So I said, well, all right, how about this? And I come up with something. She says, that's good, write it down. So I write it down. And she says, okay, you say half and I'll say half. We're supposed to, you know. Okay, now we're going to actually meet him, the Pope. And we're doing it one at a time. Irene says to me, do you still have that paper? I said, yeah. I pulled it out of my jacket. She grabbed it and said, you're on your own. So we met John Paul, and I must say, to this day, it was indescribable. And any of you who had that opportunity would know. It just cannot be, words cannot be put to describe what happened. So this has been a wonderful pilgrimage through a major portion of our lives with an institution and people we have come to love and revere, and which we hope to have a continuing relationship with and hope to go on the colloquium next year. And now, my much better, far better half is going to tell you, as Paul Harvey would say, the rest of the story.
Thank you, Paul. And yes, I am guilty as charged. What he said was true.
That wasn't very good. She's used to my screwing things up.
I told him I went to confession the next day and that I was forgiven. But the priest said, maybe your husband won't forgive you. Paul and I have been friends of the Gregorian University Foundation now for nearly 30 years, when we began visiting Rome. On the colloquia we attended, we always did grand and exciting things. We would start the day with a sumptuous breakfast, and in our journey, we gather us together and make sure, well, that we knew our schedule for the day. But who did we call upon? We didn't have to. Tricia and Colleen were always there to help us, to get us started. We attended Mass daily in such Jesuit churches as St. Ignatius, the Gesù, and we even went to Santa Maria Maggiore, which is a Catholic Marian church in Rome. Also we held Mass with the priests that we were with in the Ignatian rooms where St. Ignatius lived and worked for many years. After Mass, we would visit the schools and speak with the most amazing rectors of the Biblicum, the Oriental, and the Greg. The colloquium, when we met Pope John Paul, we knew we were indeed in the presence of someone very special. When it was my turn to meet with him, I walked slowly to his side. I knelt down. I held his hand. I kissed his ring. And then I looked into his eyes. I knew what I wanted to say, but I couldn't speak. I was frozen. I looked in his eyes, and it was as though clouds were moving. Was it heaven? I don't know. He spoke. I spoke. I rose slowly and started walking towards the stairs. And I have vertigo, so I usually have trouble walking downstairs. I didn't walk. I floated. I floated down those stairs. Actually, when we talked to our friends afterwards, other members of our group also echoed the same thoughts that I had. This was indeed a spiritual meeting. We would always meet at the Gregorian University, where we learned it was once called the Roman College, founded by St. Ignatius, to educate future leaders of the church, and also to seek to have a global vision, very important. So now there are 2,800 students who represent 150 countries. They are religious women and men, lay women and men. I was very excited to hear the news that many more women were now attending the Greg, as there was a place for them also as future leaders of the church. Its impressive alum includes 17 popes and 73 saints, 33% of the College of Cardinals, and 23% of Catholic bishops. We meet and we met with very special members of the faculty. And I'm also going to say a few words about Father Joseph Pital. He was rector of the Gregorian University and then president of Sophia University. He was very special to us. After meeting with him several times, we were invited to his Episcopal ordination when he became Archbishop Pital. Now, we were at St. Peter's, and there were hundreds of Japanese there. They were present, and we thought he was responsible for their conversion to Christianity. Could be. But after attending a most wonderful dinner with the Archbishop the following day, we jokingly asked him, "What should we call you? You're an Archbishop now. What should we call you?" And he replied, "Just call me Joe." He was indeed a very humble man. We were also fortunate to meet Cardinal Martini, who was a rector of the Gregorian and biblical scholar, who served as Archbishop of Milan. someone at the dinner whispered, he's going to be the next pope. But this wasn't meant to be. But that's how special he was. In 2010, Father Tom Casey, another good friend of ours, became director of the Cardinal Bay Center for Judaic Studies. One of the courses compared sacred texts in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. This center is very special, as Paul and I really believe that dialogue is crucial in today's world. This is really one of the great things that we loved about the Gregorian University, its global appeal. Father Steve Pisano, whom we met several times also, and embraced him as a friend, was rector of the Biblicum and emeritus professor of the Old Testament, teaching at the Biblicum for 35 years. He was always our guide when we visited the Biblicum. One time that we went to the Biblicum, he had a class, and there was an Asian student there, and she was giving her talk on her experiences at the Greg. And we asked her, well, what are your plans after graduation? And she told us that she was returning to her country, and she was going to be the head of the seminary. This woman, this special student, future leaders of the church. John Joseph Kennedy, also another alum of the Greg, an Irish priest from Dublin, worked in the Vatican, for 22 years with the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. His licentiate and doctor in canon law came from Gregorian University. Now, when Archbishop Kennedy recently received his Episcopal ordination, Paul and I were invited to this wonderful event, but sadly we were unable to attend. He has been a good friend of the Gregorian Foundation, visiting with our colloquium members when he's able. Actually, on the last visit to Rome, I think many of you may have met him. He's also got a beautiful Irish brogue. Now, just another bit of humor. When he first dined with our group in Rome, he rode to the event on his Harley motorcycle. And I got to tour with him in Rome on the back of his motorcycle. It was wonderful. It was thrilling. And now we come to the end of the story. This journey of discovering the Gregorian University over nearly 30 years. It's been more precious than we ever imagined. We learned that its mission, teaching future leaders of the church, is paramount. We now step down as board members, knowing our church is in very good hands, and that this foundation is in excellent hands. Paul and I are so proud to be part of this extraordinary Gregorian University Foundation. We do humbly thank you for this special award, but you really, all of you, have done more for us than we have done for you, and thank you so much.